Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we'll bring you day 197 of Ukraine war as Ukraine continues to deoccupy territories in the east. These diaries are done in the form of conversations between Olexiy Arestovych, advisor to the president of Ukraine, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition journalist. Enjoy. Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feigin Live. It is Thursday, September 8th, 7 minutes past 10 in Kiev. Getting late. Apologies for our delay. A more extraordinary circumstance today. We say hi to you, Olexiy. You're still traveling. Good evening. Yeah, we're still where we are. Okay, in any case, we have almost 200,000 viewers live, over 40,000 click the like button. Please continue to share links to that stream in your social media, Twitters, Facebooks, and such. Subscribe to Feigin Live to Olexiy Arestovych, and if you are listening or watching that in English, subscribe to the Privateer Station. Alright, let's start with the situation. We should mention we are showing Kharkiv area map, and I understand we still cannot name all of the involved villages and towns. Yeah, if we still do not name a town, we do not name. We have an advancement from the south up north, and then in the town that we're not naming, we continue our success, and the news are so positive that I'm not even trying to impress anyone, but do not expect us to move all the way to Vladivostok, but at some point we will encounter some resistance when Russia gathers their act together, but we're continuing with our run to the east. So how do you guys do that? Well, we found a weak spot and we cut through that and continue pushing eastwards. And I keep observing screams in Russian chats and pro-war forums, and people who've been, as they claim, been fighting since 2014. Some town's congressman from St. Petersburg. There are interesting statements today. I was always saying that Russian propaganda and Russian leadership has no role model for defeat. Their all war stories are about the drunk trooper by the fountain kicking everybody's ass. They're eager to accept all the losses and costs as long as they're capturing something. But when they're getting pushed back, when we recapture locations and territories, they don't know what to do. They don't have civilizational answer to these events. That's what I'm saying. 2 more, 3 more, and they'll topple and fold. And we already got one here on the east, so the count is on. Okay, let me voice what I'm reading in Publix. Kupiansk, the logistics station, is preparing for defense. Is it already actual for them? It does appear to be very timely for them to prepare for defense. How many kilometers away? Well, I cannot say exactly when, because I'll give up the positions of our troops. So, okay, then don't name that. Let's just say that it's timely. What about Izum? If you guys take Kupiansk, what happens to Izum? Well, there is no encirclement per se yet on that front. We're still pushing towards Izum from the south. We did bypass Izum in the north, so I don't know if we'll going to encircle them, shell them with artillery or aviation. It depends upon their plans. I don't know what action will they choose. But yeah, that the end is nigh for that group. And by the way, there is a command of the army over there. Are they in Izum? Very next to it, close to it. Okay. So does that offensive affect somehow the intensity a little lower when they're trying to hit Bakhmut? They continue their attempts to push forward there. I'm still amazed at the fact that they have not changed their tactics. They need to react to things. Oh yeah, it would be smart to probably move some reserves from Bakhmut up north. Maybe not even move reserves, but at least change some operative plans. Because if Izum group folds, further offensive towards Bakhmut is a silly idea. Because then they're exposing more of their flank to our advancing army. So in a proper approach, one would need to hold defense, fortify their positions, and make sure they're ready to stand and hold to the north near Seversky Donetsk near 12 or 1 p.m. a.m. near 12 or 1 o'clock on this map, where the green tents are. Because imagine if we go further to the east and then just start folding down south, we'll hit them to the side. But that's them. They continue their operation, and even that offensive is just following the maps, the line on the map. They're told to go west, and they're going west in disregard to roads and other things. And that's the problem with the Russian army. Their strength, that they're long, is also a weakness, because any other army would have already learned lessons and done things to mitigate their losses. This army doesn't. They just continue for the moment. So what do you think they can bring up north? That third corps that we talked about? No, they have other reserves that are still available somewhat on the territory of Russian Federation. But one needs to understand it's not dozens of battalion groups. It's a couple. So we'll see. We'll see what they'll do. So where is that third corps? Where did they send that group? Not there. We're not saying where they are. Not there. I know exactly where the group is located, but they're not there. Do you think they could help them? They need reserves in general. It doesn't matter which corps do they send there. It's either working battalion group or not, but majority of people in the third corps, they have no experience. And if anything, if they send them over to the front, they might become just additional lubrication for our knives. So, and if it's 50, 60-year-old gentlemen with lack of battle experience, it's just very dangerous to throw people without preparation into the fray. They can die faster than they realize they're dead, especially when they get hit by professional detachments of Ukraine army. All right, we'll leave it as is. I would delicately say that this offensive on our side, we moved at least roughly 50 kilometers wide by 50 kilometers deep. It's about 2,500 square kilometers. And it's not so much about the width, it's about the depth. Note, all our success is in terms of 2 days, basically. As they're discussing in Russian publics, they need to waste 10,000 people and spend 80 days getting about the same amount of territory. And they never had such a success of this war, maybe only at the beginning. So, what Russian chats, and we're discussing what they're stating, they have also big troubles with Kherson group. So, the northern part of Kherson that you're seeing on the map, it's towards 1 o'clock. They're pretty sad in the north because things are happening there, and they're meeting a lot of Ukraine activity up there. And also, In the middle of that, where you see there is a red arrow going back, there is some sort of protrusion starting to shape up. There is a chance that Ukraine can maybe split this group in two halves, and then they'll have a lot of grief trying to resolve their situation. And as I mentioned, we do have a third direction. We do need to start a third direction of the front somewhere. If we manage to find, I don't know if we have resources for that, but if we manage to open the third active offensive on this front, somewhere I suspect Russian command will topple. They would have no resources to mitigate that. But they have real problems here in Kherson too. In Kharkov, it's explosive and rapid. In Kherson, it's slower and it's a bit different circumstance. This is more of a methodical grinding of the enemy and smoother motion on the ground where our troops are encircling them, hitting them a bit, encircling more, letting them leave, recapturing villages. Now, Russian army starts to understand what it feels like when your enemy is everywhere around you, and it's basically picking locations where to take a bite from that meat patty. And in parallel, I understand you guys are still taking out the warehouses and command posts, right? Yeah, it is so routine, Mark. I'm not even covering that. Every day is 10, 12 good, successful hits. And we can say again, yes, more command posts, warehouses are destroyed. Pontoon crossings and bridges continue to getting hit. Yeah, we saw there was a video of a pontoon crossing getting shelled. So we continue to hit them both in the east, in the northeast, in the south. But I suspect they need to start praying because I don't see them being able to stand and hold their ground in Kherson. Their destiny is pretty grim. One can only feel a little sad for them and their future perspectives in Kharkov and Kherson directions. All right, 380,000 watching us live, over 100,000 click the like button. We ask you to please share links to that stream wherever you want people to know more about what's going up on the front, and more people could join us. All right, me as the host of the show, I need to give more information so people don't blame us that we're not giving enough. Well, I'm trying to share a lot. I just don't name certain names, but I give quite a bit if one is attentive and listens to what I say. Summing it up, Russian group in both Kharkov and Kherson areas are bad, and they have all chances now to get just worse, because everything is just starting there. And it is going in accordance with the proper laws of military genre. When the time will come to actually share details, we'll tell the numbers, the towns and villages. But we have overwhelming amount of captured prisoners, captured Putin's soldiers, captured ammo, captured equipment. All right, let's also address Rammstein 5. There are some results already posted in the media. You're probably following them too. Among the other military equipment supplied to Ukraine, we haven't seen anything new, anything radically different from the previous shipments. Well, Mark, one needs to understand, if they are sending something new, they will be probably in the unnamed category. So with all the information that we can discuss, our main principle is do no harm. So unless this is well known, we'll need to continue talking about our successes and how it goes here. We have to be patient and understand as adults that every careless word here can lead to dead soldiers on the front, so we're trying to be accurate and careful, do no harm. The same thing about Rammstein. There are some messages open for media. Additional missiles for HIMARS, additional howitzers, additional artillery, more new minesweeping equipment. Basically, the character of what is being provided has a definitely offensive kind. Minesweeping equipment, that's definitely one of those groups, and we get quite a few of those. You need minesweepers to clean territories to continue with your offensive, and that's just what Americans give. That's what publicly known. I can say there is way more, and there are many things that are not publicly known. The principle is simple. We first need to make sure that we use it, it becomes known on the battlefield, it leaks and seeps through the media, and then eventually we can acknowledge what is being supplied. But if you listen carefully and think enough, we give enough data to understand what is going on, to deduce the details. Well, yes. And Blinken visited you, right? His visit coincided with Rammstein and the situation on the front. Yes, he did arrive. Do you think that matched on purpose? It gives additional negotiation bonus for Ukraine side to communicate about successes in war. Given that it coincides with another big session of our military command, probably. I don't think that they're discussing perspectives of farming in Kherson region. Although, you know, cattle farming in the Kherson region, that may be an interesting name for that, but I would just say, just wait, give it a couple days. There'll be more insider information coming from Rammstein. It'll be published in different media, and we can comment on that. Because as in my official capacity as an advisor to the office of the president, I cannot bring the news, I cannot make news, but we can discuss and comment on the other things that already became public. All right. Let's continue to the next topic. I had a note here somewhere. Okay, let's say that Elizabeth, the Queen, has died, 96 years old, understandable. She was loved by many. By the way, about a day ago, she hosted Liz Truss. She gave her an audience and basically blessed her before leaving. Charles is the next king, who already took the new name, Karl, and he's 74 years old, and by the way, he's known for his despise. Philip was even stronger in this regard, but Charles still is on the same front. They did compare Putin with Hitler. They were calling Putin Feldfebel. Elizabeth, by the way, saw a lot of things. Yeah, she was an officer of British Army during the Second World War. She actually has seen those events. And her spouse did fight as well, right? So do you think this will affect the foreign policy in any capacity? Well, frankly, they do despise Putin. They have deep dislike to Putin. And it's not just because of the usual aristocracy position, but it's probably also fueled by some personal stuff. And given the mix of King and Liz Truss attitude to it, you know, everybody considered this king somewhat problematic with all his stories with Diana and other marriage and all that. Now that might actually make him look like a serious king when he comes and does something in relation to Putin situation. I think it's fair to expect him to continue his line because at 74 years old, people seldom ever choose their change their convictions. So we'll see. We'll follow his steps. I think this is a good supposition that that Britain might just become sterner for Putin. Andrei Yermak also states that sanctions against Putin's government are en route. We already implemented about 86% of what we intended to. And Ukraine is implementing sanctions against people and Putin's surroundings. And these sanctions that we do internally, they become the basis for the external sanctions later. Yeah, I understand this is a process. We just, of course, want to have a bit more active position against Putin's cronies. And we did talk about more sanctions at the Russian opposition meeting, which you probably missed. Yeah, I know. Our machine, I just wanted to say, we're grinding slowly but surely. And every continuous sanctions are basically escalation on top of the previous ones. So they're more difficult, they take more time and more preparation to push through. All the quick sanctions already taken. So now it's more things that actually offend laws and other legal situations in the world with other governments. So they take time to actually verify and push through. And all these Putin's statements about energy blackmail, about capturing nuclear power plants, all these fake referendums in the occupied territories, all these are adding to the bucket of people's attitude towards Putin regime. And the world is changing. Elizabeth passed away, Gorbachev passed, and I think the world that is coming will not be a comfortable place for Putin and his cronies. I'd agree with you. Yeah, British throne likely will be somewhat similar to the way it was before politically, but at least definitely Putin should not be looking for any loyalty in this regard. Yeah, I agree with you. There is nothing good for his regime to be expected from that development. You know, they actually had some funny ideas. We are not worse than Brits. We can make Putin a monarch and make his daughter or granddaughter his heir. That was actually officially discussed in a lot of circles in Russia. One of his protagonists was Tikhon and Kirill, the Russian Orthodox Church patriarch. But it is funny because without any monarchical blessing to such a neophyte, none of the remaining king families or dynasties in Europe will acknowledge. And it's an interesting fact, by the way. I don't think many people realize that British dynasty is considered to be the grand house in Europe, the top level in Europe. I don't know about the world, but Europe for sure. And all these puny attempts to look alike, as some classics have stated. For them, it's very simple in Russia. Putin's regime thinks, oh, we're just exactly like you because we have more money. And now they're discovering that the world is about something else, not just the money. The world is about values. And they don't realize that a lot of West is about certain values, about rationalism and calculations. And I did talk to some of the analysts about, remember their initial failure and the onset of this war to calculate it proper, and the expectations and the chances for Ukraine to survive. But so their calculations and their expectations were based on the fact that if Putin decides to attack Ukraine and start this war, he should have a certain amount of resources available. So if he did, he had them. And Putin really did not, and his regime did not get to anywhere near that required level. They just went on an adventure ride. And in Kremlin, they still believe the old things that they'll sell a robe to the West on which they'll hang them later, quoting from Lenin's works early in the 20th century. But the West is a bit different these days. And Russia is, speaking of values, right? They're not supporting their people. They're not developing the country. They're building palaces in Gelendzhik. Even the terminology, a palace, this is what they built, right? Not a residence, a palace. This is the imitation game. All these generals of FSB and head of their military, they were stealing a lot of money that were given to the war, potential and future war with Ukraine in the Russian budget. Neither of them believed that the war is possible. So they were stealing about 80%, 90% of what was dedicated for the military expense. And then all of a sudden, when the leader decides to start the war, they have nothing to fight with. Neither FSB nor military, they've already stolen all that money. And then there is that picture when we saw on the video when he's listening to the head of military command and he can't even look at them, doesn't want to look at them, and they don't know where to put their eyes. Because they were playing that imitation game. They were imitating all the success, all the development of their army. I think two people who seriously believed them were Putin and his ideological part, Dugin. And everybody else were just enriching themselves and stealing from the budget. As I said before, if one wants to understand everything about the army you're fighting with and the government of the country that army belongs to, look at the boots of the soldiers. And if you look at the boots of the Russian army in this conflict, they're just horrible. And all these billions of dollars that Putin wasted on this war, they did not reach soldiers' boots. All right, let's talk about referendums. I think their perspective is really becoming remote, all things considered. In Kherson region, somewhere, partisans, I think, posted pictures of collaborants and Russian regime administration with a note that you all will die. It's logical. One can only need to trace the destiny of the previous 20. Their destiny is very sorrow. Those who are still alive, they're trying to flee back beyond the front to Russia. And in Russia, they're being captured and being thrown back to the regions because, hey, you subscribed to that, you promised your loyalty, now go and help us manage it. And I suspect most of them became Russian agents before the war. Of course, but, they should have given it a thought. And even Putin didn't think of this war proper, so, thinking about these guys, they're not in a good position. So, referendum, they're saying 4th of November now. Oh yeah, till the 4th of November, the situation on the front will be radically different and it will not be inducive to any referendum. So I suspect there'll be no referendum, right? They are being accused of preparing that, but we'll see. Probably after sudden death of the first member of the election committee, and then some organizers decide to leave this world, and then HIMARS may also land on the heads of the local military command, and I think that'll be the end of that story. We have over 430,000 people watching us live, over 40,000 click the like button. See, a lot of people, they do want to hear news and updates and details. We shall have more, right? Tomorrow is Friday. Are you coming back? I think so, and we'll talk tomorrow, yes. Details are as follows. It is very difficult for the Russian army, both in the south and in Kharkiv region. Kharkiv is actually worse and will get much more worse. So when the general command will speak and comment on that, we'll start commenting that too. But commenting Russian sources, they are screaming bloody murder there. They're in desperation. They're fighting each other. I'm quoting, for example, some of the posts that Shoigu is an idiot from Tuva. He should be given a medal for destruction of Russian army. And these are the ones who are fighting. They're posting that. Or official propagandists. Army of Russia does not exist anymore. We don't know how long will Russia exist after that. There is a catastrophe. And moral as well. Oh yeah, one doesn't understand how to fight with that. And consequences that Kupinsk's supply is being cut. They can't really still supply anything through Kupinsk. Maybe very to the right of it, to the east, there is a small trickle path, but in general, their reserves cannot be supplied to Izum Group. Is it really cut? Yeah, it is cut. So even what we've done already, this is a big moral defeat and physical defeat on the battlefront for their army. We barely can count everything. Kiev, let's count something, beans here. So, Russian troops, since the beginning of Ukrainian war, have lost over 50,000 troops. We officially confirmed 51,000 yesterday, I think, right? That was the number given. In regards to that number, wounded, dead, the ones who cannot go back. So if overall, what's the overall with the wounded and private? It's over 100,000 mark. So yeah, if we take Wagner's, if we take the ones who are wounded, who will not recover or will never be fully fit for duty, I'm not even counting Donetsk and Lugansk so-called republics armies, but just Wagner's and private Russian armies and cadre Russian armies, they're over 100,000. And their daily losses jumped from 350 to over 600 daily. And yeah, that's why, because it hurts a lot where we are moving. It is a literal catastrophe. They're losing 300 to 500 a day. Mark, it's a catastrophe for Russian army in that area. Okay, so in all that fire, in all that fiery cauldron that's happening, how big of a Russian group that is stuck there? That's the problem of Russian army. They came with under 200,000 to capture Ukraine. Although Stalin, for example, created 4 armies, 4 fronts with over 2 million people to fight for Ukraine. Remember Libyan war when Israel creates 76,000 worth army, and he's creating that army, Israel is creating that army to fight against Palestinian groups. 76,000 enter the territory 50 miles deep, about 100 miles long. And to say that it was easy for them, it wasn't. There are a lot of difficulties and nuances. And Russians are trying to use 170,000 to capture Ukraine with the size of the front of 1,400 kilometers. It's about nothing. Well, they have nothing else. Exactly, that's the consequence. They're spread very thin by a thin red line all along the front. And if Ukrainian troops pinch and punch through that hole, through that red line, there is nobody to meet them behind. There are no second line, third line to stop them. We won't point fingers, but there are some places where our army can go all the way to the border with Russian Federation without meeting any soldiers. They are all spread thin on the front line, and there may be in some parts a very slight imitation of the second line, like in Kherson region. So it means that in any area where you punch through the first line, you get to the operative freedom. That's what happened at the beginning of the war when they attacked us. They're getting the same situation in that Kharkov region. After you punch through, there is nobody to hold you. Usually, in a proper war, there would be a second line of defense, there'll be reserves from the depth. Well, they may eventually be able to bring reserves, but they're coming to try to mitigate after we broke through 50 plus miles. One cannot fight like that. It means we did cut a lot of roadways, a lot of supply routes to the other parts of their army. So anything they can do is maybe with a lot of blood and effort create a second line and just forget the previous one that they lost. For that, for successes like that, in every army of the world, the generals who manage to do such a maneuver are awarded the highest medals. And yeah, the generals of the opposite army would likely be hung. But as we discussed, remember, changes they accumulate gradually but realize rapidly. And we're talking about defense of Russian army, right? Every stream now is about their defense and how and where we punch them. So 2 months ago, we talked about this still dangerous Russian army pushing at us from all directions. And now we're talking about their incapacity to hold defense. They are there. The factors accumulated to a certain level. They can barely hold what they have now, and where we broke through, there is nothing to stop us. Ideally, they'll probably accumulate some reserves and try to stop us from further advancement. But we already achieved our goals. We cut the supply for Izum Group. And their destiny is also pretty sad. Probably 90% possibility of them suffering consequences of that. So we understand that. Is there any numeric number? Is there any number that you can give for the amount of Russian troops that ran? Well, the town we did not name. When we surrounded it or passed by it, a big chunk of them fled. A small group stayed there. We blocked them. We massaged them with artillery and aviation. Then our groups come in, cut the town in two halves. This is an old, good method. That's what Patton asked from his troops in Europe back in World War II. When the Soviet army was fighting, Zhukov actually called the motorcycle troops in one of the offenses on the second half of the war. He basically gave them an order. All you need to do is break through and ride. You may not even shoot a single shot, fire a single shot. You just need to keep going in and cut the supply routes. Keep going for 100 miles a day for 2 days, and you're all the heroes of Soviet Union. And that's what they did. They disorganized supply lines, panic, noise, shots fired, and supply routes to the army on the front are destroyed or at least endangered. So I would say that surviving Russian offensive in general is a bad experience, uncomfortable, when people are sending you reports that Russian airborne troops are landing in the center of Kiev or in the outskirts of the capital. And the first impression was very serious. If not for our people's attitude and morale, who continued fighting regardless of all the news. And now Russians are facing the same issue. Avoiding the main front lines, our troops punched into the back, captured a lot of warehouses, cut a lot of their logistics supply routes. We can't name, but we captured a lot of equipment and ammo and prisoners. And that all goes to us. What is good about offensive? You capture a lot of people, you capture a lot of ammo, you defeat their morale and defeat their capacity to fight. And by the way, yeah, you get new memes being born on that, so more morale. And in the south, there is another big surprise crawling up upon Izum Group. We captured Davgenki and keep moving. And we're also doing active actions on both fronts. Two very painful slaps into the face of Russian army. Or maybe more like punches, when in box you get hit like that and your brain hits the skull and the boxer becomes a bit groggy. And you look at their publics and chats and discussion boards, they're talking about that. And when our officials release the numbers, we'll discuss them. They'll be more than impressive. You know, people for the most part think about miles and souls. So in this capacity, over 50 kilometers and several thousand Russian troops. Yeah, so that's respectable number. All right, 40 minutes we've been live. Your connection is a bit sucky today. Yeah, it's field. It's as good as it gets here. We have 440,000 watching us live. Over 60,000 click the like button. Let's continue and discuss more things tomorrow. And we'll mention all the other things we did not touch upon today. Probably by that time we'll have more data coming from Ramstein, from the battlefront. I hope we'll have more official news released so we can discuss them. All right, thank you, Olexiy. Thank you, all the viewers. Please do not forget to share links to that stream in your groups, in your social media, and subscribe to Feigin Live, to Olexiy Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English. See you tomorrow at the same time.